Oh, hell yes, dear listener. Blazing the trail solo once again in advance of Hardly Strictly Politics. This is Russ, back in the saddle again for issue number 20. Blessed behind the silver microphone once again. After a 2-week hiatus from Bots, Thoughts, and Drops, it is great to be back, dear listener. And Bots, Thoughts, and Drops is great again. You believe that. Issue number 20, dear listener. Can you believe it? 20 of these shows. Unreal. What a ride this week, dear listener. There's almost nothing to talk about because of this whole Ukraine impeach, and all this issue is taking up all the oxygen in the room. And that topic, dear listener, is most definitely top of the stack. But here on this show, Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 20, we are in the business of the bottom of the stack, or bots. It's like this, dear listener. You got a tall stack of articles you want to cover for the show? Well, the top of the stack, that goes to HSP. And the bottom of the stack, that is the business of this show right here, right now. So let's get up and ride, shall we? But before we do, let me tell you how to find us. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. Send us feedback at zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn, all 4 under Zero Gravity Media. You can also find us on Podbean, so check us out there. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe to us, and please leave us a review. And also, you can find us on YouTube. Look for Zero Gravity Media and our God tier, Zero G logo. All right, dear listener, 2 weeks off. Wow, it did me some good. I've got to be honest. I've been working so much, dear listener, and you notice we've been putting out the content on Hardly Strictly Politics. It's not like I've been burnt out and haven't been rip-roaring and ready to go for the show. I have just been working like a dog, dear listener. That's the simple fact of the matter. And priorities come first. And Luke and I have a solid commitment. Our first duty is to Hardly Strictly Politics. So my efforts, those little bits of time that I've had to do radio shows, have had to go to Hardly Strictly. So I had to take a 2-week hiatus on bots. Feeling a little bit rusty, dear listener. I've had some fits and starts, getting the recording going and all this kind of stuff. Not really in my routine like I usually am. My normal bot self, you know. So I'm going to try to shake off some dust this week. So please bear with me this week. I ask your indulgence. So thank you for understanding. And thank you for jumping back in the saddle for issue number 20 after this 2 weeks off. It is great to be on the trail with you again, dear listener. Now, speaking of all this content Luke and I've been throwing down, I hate to keep plugging this, but y'all got to check out our interview with candidate Ross Schumann. He is running in Texas District 11, which is down around the central South Texas area, Midland, Odessa, right around there, okay? He is an absolutely great candidate, fantastic guy. We had a great time talking to him. In fact, he's going to come back on to Hardly Strictly Politics here in a couple of weeks, probably, once he gets some campaign stuff done and, kind of the political cycle settles down a little bit because it has been crazy, dear listener, but Ross, what a great guy. Absolutely. I had a great time talking to you, and you are always welcome in these hallowed halls of Hardly Strictly Politics, Zero Gravity Media, and Bots, Thoughts, and Drops. And also, Luke and I are in talks with some other candidates here in Texas, dear listener. We're working things out right now. As you can probably guess, somebody running for political office is really extremely busy. So it's really hard to get on their dance card, but Luke and I are in negotiations right now. So you're going to see more content like what we did with Ross Schumann in a Hardly Strictly special, number 1. You're going to be seeing more candidates coming down the pike. We don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but it cometh, dear listener, and it cometh like a freight train. You believe that. All right, dear listener, how the hell have you been doing? What's going on with you? Have you been cooking yourself some good food, dear listener? Have you been going out to some nice restaurants? Have you been treating yourself good overall? Speaking of eating, have you been eating lots of red meat this week, dear listener? This last 2 weeks? Now that we have just learned this week that red meat is the cornerstone of a nutritious diet, as we now know. All these years, these leftists lied to you about, oh my God, red meat is going to give you a heart attack. Oh, it's going to give you cancer. Plus, that means you eat more beef, and then we have to grow more beef, and then they fart more, and it kills our environment. Oh my God! Right? That's been the narrative. Well, now we find out that is all a load of bullshit, and you should be eating red meat in order to attain maximal health. That's just the way it is. So, dear listener, let's fix a steak at the end of the trail on Hardly Strictly Politics. What number are we on? Are we on 57? Yeah, I think we're on 57. At the end of the trail on HSP number 57, Luke and I are cooking steaks. You believe that? Maybe some barbecue too. There's a new moon out, dear listener. I'm looking at it right now. It's mostly over there in the west. It's really red and really pretty tonight. So have you gone out and checked out the moon? So beautiful. So beautiful. Just go outside and check it out some night. See what you think. Are the leaves changing where you're at, dear listener? Are you starting to notice it? Do you notice it? Fall is ever so steadily coming in, moving the summer out. The days are getting shorter precipitously, right? I noticed it first back in August, and I talked to y'all about the light in August bending just a little bit, and you could notice ever so slight changes. Now they're very steady changes. It's happening quickly now. Fall is coming, and I'm pretty excited. I'm ready for it to cool off a little bit. I love October, dear listener. I'm serious. It's absolutely my favorite month of the year, and I mean, I love lots of months. Seriously, you know, I love December, the holidays. I love November. You know, I love April when everything starts getting to turn green and all that. And I love May when the flowers come out and all that kind of stuff. Really, I do. But hands down, my favorite month is October because that's the dormancy setting in. That's when the earth is telling you it's time to slow down just a little bit. Take it easy just a little bit, right? You had a hard summer. You worked hard. You played hard, right? Now let's just kind of settle down a little bit and get ready to go to ground, to hibernate until we do it all again next year, right? Right? That's the message of October. So with that said, what's your favorite month, dear listener? Leave me some feedback about that at the contact form at the website or feedback at zero-gravity-media.com. Let me know what your favorite month is. Mine's October. All right. Dear listener, it is that time for Stow Riz with Uncle Russ. And it turns out, dear listener, I don't really have much to talk about. I have been so damn busy. There aren't really many stories to tell. I'm serious. I was scraping the bottom of the barrel when I was show prepping tonight, trying to get ready for this episode. I don't really even know what to talk about. So I'm just going to shoot from the hip about a couple things. All right. Dallas Stars hockey, dear listener, is great again. We are in the official hockey season. I could not be more excited. Stars are looking pretty good this year, I've got to say. I'm hoping to go to a lot of hockey games this year, as many as I can possibly squeeze in. And, we had some fits and starts in preseason, but we're looking pretty good at the beginning of the season. I think that, barring injuries and things like that, hockey's weird because you can get absolutely plagued by injuries and it wrecks your team for an entire season, right? You can go on a losing streak because you got to remember, you play 82 games in hockey. It ain't like playing 16 football games in the NFL. You play 82 of them, right? And you absolutely exert yourself completely every single night, right? And so that opens you up to injuries, and that can really affect your team, right? But overall, I like what I'm seeing so far, so I'm excited for me some Dallas Stars hockey and just the NFL in general. I mean, my two sports, dear listener, college football and NHL hockey. Those are my jam right there. Everything, I got other sports I like, they're fine, but those are the two that I absolutely live by. Oh, man. Happy as a pig in, you know what? I'll just leave it there. I'll try to minimize the cursing because I'll probably end up cursing more toward the end of this episode, I would imagine. All right, dear listener, lots of questions about the orange cat. The orange cat's doing great. In fact, I'm looking at his little ass right now. I've got my windows open, and he's right over here across the street, just like always, sitting on top of a monster truck. The orange cat loves him some monster trucks. I don't know what it is. Maybe he likes the challenge of getting on top of them, but I see him on top of cars around here a lot. He just goes and posts up on top of a car and just kind of lays down. And the orange cat, speaking of him, he's kind of one of these cats that he'll just be like, flirting with everybody and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes he'll be walking along and he'll just be like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and chill real quick. I'm right here on the sidewalk, right in the middle of it. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to sit here and chill. Boom. And he just sits there and chills for a couple minutes, gets up and walks away. That's the way the red cat rolls. Or the orange cat, red cat, the orange cat. So anyways, I'm looking at him right now. He's batting his tail on the top of this monster truck. He seems to be doing pretty well. But I will tell you, about a week ago, I went and took him a piece of bacon, right? And once again, cooked it up, and I took it to him and he turned me down. Like he didn't want it. Like he acted like he was disgusted by it. Now, keep in mind, dear listener, in the last episode, I told you that I went and gave the orange cat a couple of pieces of cooked bacon and he loved it. Well, this time just, no. Oh, God, bacon is so pedestrian, so below me. Oh, my God. So I was like, man, screw you, Orange Cat. So I ate it. I ate it right there in front of him. I was like, fine, watch this. Watch this, son. I'm going to eat this right in front of you. And I did. All right. So I had a job last weekend in Dallas, right? And on that job, we had a lunch break, and it was a 2-hour lunch break, right? And that was just enough time for me to get to kind of close to downtown Dallas, East Dallas, to my favorite restaurant in the world ever of all time, dear listener. It's this little vegan restaurant in a Hare Krishna temple over in East Dallas, and it's called Kalahanji's, right? If you ever find yourself in Dallas, Texas, go to Kalahanji's, okay? It's just magical every single time. Now, keep in mind, I told you, it's a vegan place, right? This ain't the place that you go and get a steak or something like that. This ain't a barbecue joint. It's a vegan joint, right? The food is always supreme. The temple is absolutely beautiful. It burned with major fire damage about maybe 5 years ago or something like that, and they've built it back to its original state. It looks like it has for the last forever, 15, 20 years. And speaking of 15, 20 years, I went in there, and there is this gal that I used to know back in the day that I haven't seen in probably about 4 years, because I would go to Kalahanji's when I would come back from San Francisco and go to Dallas and visit and stuff like that. I would go there, right? And I would always see this gal, right? And she is just the sweetest thing in the entire world. Of course, I'm not going to say her name or anything like that, but she is God tier smart. I mean, I think she grew up in Indonesia. I'm not sure about that, but for sure I know she studied in Indonesia. And then she and her family moved to either Sweden or Switzerland. I can't remember, so that she could get her PhD. And I believe it may have been her first PhD. And that's what actually brought her here to Dallas, Texas, was to get her second PhD, right? Like, this gal is smart, right? Super smart. But she just kicks it, serves her temple, works at that restaurant part-time. She doesn't work there full-time. She works there part-time. I mean, she's always into other kind of more scholarly types of things as well. But, she holds down this job working at this temple as an act of devotion, as an act of service. And I saw her and I just lit up. I was like, oh my God. Ran across the room, gave her a hug. She was happy to see me too. She came and sat with me for a little bit and we caught up and stuff. And oh man, it was just fantastic. That's just all there is to it, dear listener. It was fantastic. And Kalahanji's is still the same as it's always been. The last few times I've been there, it's been a little bit overrun by hipsters, right? But there were no hipsters there this time. It was nice. A bunch of yogi types, kind of. But, and a bunch of Indian families and Hare Krishna families and stuff like that. But it wasn't like hipsters, just coming to consume everything in sight like the boll weevils they are, right? It wasn't like that, But the last few times I've been there have been a bunch of hipsters, and I haven't been there in a few years, so it was really good to see my friend. The last couple of times I've been there, I have not seen her, as a matter of fact, and it made me a little bit sad, So I probably haven't seen her in, 4 to 6 years, somewhere in there. Yeah, but we remembered each other, caught up. It was fantastic. One of those things that just, it makes you feel home. You know what I'm saying, dear listener? Like those old haunts you used to go to, those old bars, those old restaurants, those old clubs, or wherever it is that you used to hang out at. And I've been so busy, I haven't really been able to troll around town too much and, get a feel for my city that much. You know what I mean? And so I had to maximize this 2 hours I had today because I don't know, I was really hungry. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to the temple. I'm going to the temple. That's it. And just makes you feel right at home, seeing an old friend like that and going back to that old restaurant and smelling those same smells and, I don't know, seeing those same trees and those same houses all around and the same streets and the same potholes in those streets are still there and all that kind of stuff, Yeah. But I do have to say, overall, dear listener, I am not feeling too damn home in Dallas, Texas right now. I'm a little bit triggered, but you know what? We're going to save that for the last topic. We're going to talk about Dallas, Texas, and I'm going to tell you about some things that are going on. But before I do get triggered, let me just go ahead and get triggered about some other things first. Topic number 1 for the night. Guess what it is, dear listener? Jeffrey Epstein almost completely memory holed. Nobody is talking about this anymore, except for shock jock value that you might find in like a headline section of a newspaper or something online, or maybe the top 20-second story on some news show, right? Nobody is talking about this, and I believe that this is by design. I believe that this is the story that everybody wants, everybody in power, all of the gilded people of the world, right, want to go away. And it is by that design and by those intentions of this goes way deeper than just like the United States deep state, dear listener. A lot deeper than that. This is a global thing going on. And well, they've just about spiked the ball on this. It's just about out of any kind of media scrutiny, right? But I've collected some things over the last couple of weeks, and I'm not going to stop talking about it. So we're going to start with this Zero Hedge piece. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me start here. With this Cheryl Atkinson piece. Came out a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember exactly the date. She is an independent journalist. She runs her own website. God-tier journalist. I love Cheryl Atkinson. I really do. She always tells the truth, right? And she's been in the business for forever. She's one of those that I've vetted so many times, kind of like like Chuck Ross, like Luke Rosiak, like Tucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald. You know, people like this that when they say something, I just trust it because they tell the truth and they're never wrong. And Cheryl Atkinson is definitely one of these. The headline is, all prison documents about Jeffrey Epstein withheld. Take it from the lead. It goes thus. There's a bit of news in the case of Jeffrey Epstein. He's the convicted sex murderer who managed to commit suicide in a New York jail last month while he was supposed to be under close watch. My public information request about his death has been formally denied. Shortly after Epstein died in August, I filed a FOIA Act request for public documents about his injuries and medical care for both the day he died and earlier in July when he reportedly attempted suicide. Members of the public and press are entitled to review documents and communications generated and collected by federal judges and officials because, well, we own them. However, federal agencies often delay, obstruct, and resist the release of such documents. Guidance from FOI court cases in the executive branch indicates that the federal agencies are supposed to make every effort to release as much information as possible, and at least partial information if exemptions are at play. In the case of the Epstein documents I requested, the Bureau of Prisons responded by stating that it is withholding all of the documents entirely. Imagine that. This is my shocked face. You see it, dear listener? That's my shocked face right there. Absolutely disgusting. This was another big story. It broke on September 21st, so it's getting a little bit long in the tooth at this point. But, you know, again, I've been saving these up for a couple weeks because it's been 2 weeks since we've done a bots, or actually it's 3 weeks now that we're going to put this out. It's a Zero Hedge piece. The headline reads, Jeffrey Epstein paid doctors to drug sex slaves. I want to take it from the lead. It goes thus. Victims of dead pedophile Jeffrey Epstein say he paid doctors and psychiatrists to dope them up with anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications, according to a new report in the Miami Herald. That's Julie Brown at the Miami Herald. Somehow I lost that piece, dear listener. I clipped it. I've been having major issues with OneNote Clipper. All right, listen, let me get off here on a rant for just a second. All right, I use OneNote Clipper to organize my news articles, right? You can clip on your phone. It goes directly to the cloud. Then there's everything that you read on your phone that day. You can go back and read it again at the end of the day. You can highlight, drag things around, drag things into order. Well, they discontinued it in the App Store. Apple did. Discontinued it when they upgraded to the new version of Safari, which I believe is Safari version 13, okay? Well, Microsoft apparently got a new app together and sent it to Apple and was like, yo, here's the OneNote Clipper app. Put it up. You know what I mean? Well, Apple's not doing it. They're not adding it as an extension to the Safari browser. So I'm just absolutely shit out of luck when it comes to Microsoft Clipper. And this is really hampering my show prep in a major way. And so Microsoft, Apple, I don't give a damn who it is, okay? Get the software out there. This is mission critical software, and I know a lot more people than myself that depend on this. So work it out and get us the products that we paid for. It's not like this shit is free, okay? We've already paid for this. The Clipper is an extension for people who've already bought Microsoft OneNote. OneNote is still supported on the App Store. Why is OneNote Clipper, the extension, not supported on the App Store? This corporate warfare, dear listeners, sometimes I get really sick of it, man. But y'all got to work this out. And, you know, of course, Microsoft's pointing the fingers at Apple. Apple's pointing the fingers back at Microsoft. I don't care. Work it out. Fix it. Get us the products that we paid for. All right. Let me get off my soapbox. End rant. Sorry about that. I'm going to take the piece again from the lead just to get us back in the mood here, get us refocused. Victims of dead pedophile Jeffrey Epstein say he paid doctors and psychiatrists to dope them up with anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications, according to a new report in the Miami Herald. That's Julie Brown, and that's why I went off on that tear, dear listener, because I lost that Julie Brown piece. I had it clipped, and then it was just gone, right? So I had to resort to this Zero Hedge piece, which is a secondary source, which means it's reporting on the original Julie Brown report. And I really like Julie Brown. She's been doing the work on this, and I wish that I could quote her directly. Alas, was not able to find the piece after the first time I lost it. Quote, there were doctors and psychiatrists and gynecologist visits. There were dentists who whitened our teeth. There was a doctor who gave Xanax. What doctor in their right mind, who is supposed to protect their patients, gives girls and young women Xanax, said victim Virginia Giuffre, who was recruited into Epstein's sex world when she was just 16 years old. Giuffre sat down with fellow accusers Sarah Ransom and Marjik Chartouni. I saw an interview with them that I also lost. I had the audio of that interview. It's also gone. But I think her name is said Marjiki Chartouni. I'm sorry, dear listener, I'm butchering it. To discuss their experiences. Just 3 of the 60 victims uncovered by the Miami Herald's Julie Brown. Ransom, a South African native who successfully sued Epstein and his former partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, finds it hard to believe that high-profile people in Epstein's orbit had no idea what was going on. I find it so funny with all these people. After Jeffrey was arrested, saying, we didn't know, we didn't see anything, she said, Jeffrey was always surrounded by girls, always. And these weren't normal girls. You could see it on our faces. We were damaged. We were medicated. How can you sit in front of a group of girls with Jeffrey and say you just didn't know anything about it? You had to know, right? And this interview that I saw with the 3 girls, dear listener, it is absolutely heartbreaking, right? They are, they were young girls at the time. They're all in their 30s now, and they're still completely messed up by what happened with them with Jeffrey Epstein, right? It has absolutely destroyed their lives, right? And all 3 of them broke down. They can't bear the pretense of trying to be strong for the cameras or anything like that. They just can't do it. They're still absolute psychological and psychiatric messes from the harm that this man did to them by serially raping them for years. And now we wonder why they have such psychiatric problems, because he was pharmacologically doping them constantly. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Trying to numb them to the pain, trying to dull their awareness of their circumstances, their self-awareness, what's going on in their brains and what's going on with their bodies. It's absolutely disgusting. And so before I get triggered, I'm going to bail out of this piece right here. Got a caller piece. Dropped on September 18th. And the headline is, Kevin Spacey's accuser dead in the middle of sexual assault lawsuit. Ain't that funny? Take it from the lead. It goes thus. A man who accused Kevin Spacey of sexual assault has died. No details of the accuser's death have been released. Imagine that. According to a report published Wednesday by The Hollywood Reporter. A notice of the accuser's death was filed in court by Spacey's lawyers. An anonymous massage therapist who claims to have been sexually assaulted by Kevin Spacey has died, according to a notice filed in court by the actor's attorney. That's The Hollywood Reporter in a tweet on the 18th. The accuser filed a complaint against Spacey in September of 2018. He accused Spacey of forcing him to grab the actor's genitals twice during a massage. After a month after the 2 parties came to agreement on a plan that would have ended with a 7 to 11 day trial, well, the plaintiff has died. Well, Russ, I thought we were talking about Jeffrey Epstein here. Okay, yeah, I know all about this Kevin Spacey thing. Why are we talking about Kevin Spacey? Because, dear listener, Kevin Spacey was on Lolita Express all the time. All of these things are tied together. NXIVM is tied to all of this. Kevin Spacey is tied to NXIVM. NXIVM is tied to Kevin Spacey. I can't prove it yet, but all of these pedo rings, all of these sex cults are all tied together. Is this a cleanup job that we're seeing happening right now? Who is doing the cleaning up? What interested parties are doing the cleaning up if this was foul play and this crucial witnesses, accusers, sudden and inexplicable death. Oh my God, we just don't know how this happened. Are you kidding me, man? Seriously, are you kidding me? I'm just asking questions, dear listener. I'm not making any statements. I don't know what went on with this. Sure, man, he may have, slipped on a banana peel and cracked his head. That's entirely possible, No details were released about what happened. Who knows? That story was splash reported, hit and quit. Boom, headline, gone. Can't find anything else out about it now, right? But I want you to think about it, dear listener. I want you to stay on top of it. I want you to work that around in that big brain of yours and get back to me and let me know what you think about it. But I think I smell a rat. That's all I'm saying. Let's go on with the last piece about this. This is a Zero Hedge piece. It dropped later that same day. The headline is, former congressman suggests Kevin Spacey is responsible for the accuser's death. Take it from the lead, it goes thus. In a stunning development that could go a long way toward reviving the acting career of Kevin Spacey, the massage therapist who sued him for sexual assault has died, Page 6 reports. Lawyers for Spacey filed a, quote, notice of statement noting the plaintiff's death in federal court on Tuesday. They said they learned on September 11th that the masseur had recently passed. No further information or details have been given to Mr. Fowler's counsel, but plaintiff's counsel stated that they intend to notify the court with additional information at an appropriate time in the future. Yeah, I'm so sure. Okay? I am so sure. Let's skip down in the piece a little bit. Former Republican Congressman Trey Radale reacted to the news of the accuser's death by insinuating that Spacey may have been behind it, as if Spacey, the actor, was a criminal mastermind on the level of one of his characters, like Kaiser Soze. Frank Underwood returns, and he tweets the story. Trey Radale tweeted on... Radle? Yeah, it's Trey Radle. Trey Radle tweeted on September 18th. Okay. Was it Kevin Spacey? Was it Kevin Spacey responsible for doing his own cleanup? Was somebody else maybe trying to clean that up? Gee, lots of things seem to be getting cleaned up very quickly and then just absolutely disappearing from the media, don't they, dear listener? Ain't that funny? Things that make you go, All right, we're going to shift gears to the economy. Sick. I know it's economy. Yeah, I know it's economy. I'm just, yeah. What is that movie? Luke and I have quoted it before. He's going to fix the economy. Idiocracy. That's what it is, right? Yeah. When President Camacho is talking about, anyway, it doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about it. Anyway, yeah, but it's a funny bit in there when they keep saying economy. Yeah, so I was just trying to have some fun. Got a couple of themes here in this piece about the economy. All right, the first one I'm going to take is zero, and these are, I think, all Zero Hedge pieces. No, they're not all Zero Hedge pieces. 2 Zero Hedge pieces in a series of tweets that kind of illustrate this kind of weird shit that's going on. And I don't want to really get into this because I know a lot about this kind of stuff, right? But it is far from an area of expertise for me, right? I've studied this stuff a lot since the financial collapse of 2008, 2009, right? But Luke and I are working on having a guest, someone very close to us, come on who is an expert on this. And we're going to interview him about these things if this issue continues to develop. So I'm just going to kind of read some headlines about it, get you thinking about some stuff, and maybe through all this miasma of impeach, oh my God, maybe you'll notice little bits and pieces of things that you can either get back to Luke and I about, hit me up on Bots, Thoughts, and Drops about it, because as of the moment, this is Bots types of topics, or just think for yourself, see what you think about it. The headline of this first Zero Hedge piece is, DOJ accuses JP Morgan's precious metals trading desk of being a criminal enterprise. Take it from the lead. It goes thus. Who would have thought that JP Morgan's precious metals trading desk is the functional equivalent of the mafia, and that its one-time leader, Blythe Masters, was the mafia's Don? If y'all don't know who Blythe Masters is, look into her, dear listener. Y'all look into her. It's worth it. It's worth your time. Well, almost everyone who didn't mind being designated a conspiracy theorist for years. And now comes the vindication, because this has just been confirmed by the DOJ, which has accused the PM trading desk at JP Morgan of being deeply involved in what prosecutors described as a, quote, massive, multi-year scheme to manipulate the market for precious metals futures contracts and defraud market participants. In an indictment unsealed on Monday morning, the DOJ charged Michael Nowak, a JP Morgan veteran and former head of its precious metals trading desk, and Greg Smith, another trader on JPM's metals desk, in the probe. Blythe Masters was somehow admitted the Tylers, so Riley, insert. Quote, based on the fact that it was conduct that was widespread on the desk and it engaged in thousands of episodes over an 8-year period, that it is precisely the kind of conduct that the RICO statute is meant to punish, Assistant Attorney General Brian Benchkowski told reporters. Okay, here's the deal, dear listener. What they were doing is they were on a trading desk, right? That's like a group of traders. That's what that means, okay? A group of traders were buying up quickly precious metals futures contracts, thereby driving up the price, buying them up quickly in large volumes, right? So that the price comes up, right? And dumping those, okay? It is oddly reminiscent of the LIBOR scandal, which we're not going to get into now. It is also oddly reminiscent of the gold trading standard that was going on in the UK, okay? This is endemic. There is all kinds of financial manipulation, particularly in precious metals, which really pisses me off because I happen to be a holder of quite a lot of precious metals, and I buy physical. I don't buy futures contracts. I don't buy any of that stuff. I buy the physical stuff, right? And you're not going to be able to find it, so don't come at me. Don't even come at me, dear listener. I lost it in a tragic boating accident, actually. All my PMs, they're gone. I lost them in a lake. I don't even remember where that lake was. Dang, it's too bad. It's too bad. So anyway, it's just a worldwide scheme that's been going on for forever, right? Tyler Durden's over at Zero Hedge have done an excellent job of busting this stuff. They do very good technical analysis of markets. And metals rigging was one of the first things they busted back in the financial collapse. It's true. Okay. I want to shift away from that. I want to talk about this other Zero Hedge piece. The headline is liquidity shortage getting worse. Fed's repo oversubscribed even more as funding demand jumps. Take it from the lead. It goes thus. For those hoping that the dollar shortage and overnight funding crunch would ease on the third day after the GC repo rate exploded as high as 10%, we have some bad news. It has not. As we warned earlier today, when we previewed the result of today's repo outcome, the only question would be whether the amount of bids submitted into today's operation would be higher or lower than yesterday's $80.05 billion to get a sense of whether the funding pressure is easing. The answer: with $83.875 billion in total bids submitted, not only was the $75 billion operation oversubscribed again, but the total liquidity shortfall rose by almost $4 billion compared to Wednesday morning. Furthermore, the fact that the operation was again oversubscribed means that once again, there was one or more participants who did not get up to the $9 billion sorry about that. The $9 billion in the critical liquidity they needed, and that the Fed will see a chorus of demands by everyone, because just like with the discount window stigma, nobody will dare to be singled out as the party seeking repo funds to either expand the size of its operations, implement a fixed income, and or transition to permanent open market operations, i.e. QE, as Powell hinted he may do yesterday. This would now be, I've lost track, either QE4 or QE5. QE means quantitative easing. And Powell did indeed signal he was going to do it. And that's when President Trump tweeted about him and excoriated him like, Powell is such an idiot. He's such a small time. He's such a punk. Always makes the wrong moves just when the economy is starting to do good. Then Powell comes out and, he should have done QE a long time ago. Damn it. There's an interesting thing going on here where Trump is really setting up the Fed to be the fall guy if the economy crashes, right? I suspect now in all of this impeachment mania that's going on, I suspect that Trump is also going to try to position the Democrats to be the fall guy if the economy tanks, but he is definitely putting all attention squarely on Jerome Powell at the Fed. As It's been a very interesting thing. This is something I can't remember if I've actually talked about this. I think I briefly mentioned it. You know, we haven't even gotten into these deep dives on the Fed and all that kind of stuff that we always want to do. I hate the Federal Reserve. I'm just going to say I'm not a central banker kind of guy. That's just all there is to it. I'm an open, free market kind of guy, not a centrally controlled economy kind of guy, right? Which is what the Fed does, right? So anyways, let me not start, LARPing about the Fed and Donald Trump's checkmate of the Fed and all that kind of stuff, which are really fascinating topics. We'll save that for another time because this issue is going to continue to grow. This repo disaster is starting to happen. You're like, well, what's repo? What's repo? What exactly does this mean? I'm going to get to it here in just a second, dear listener. That's going to be our closing thought about it, okay? But yeah, this is continuing, and it's been continuing for a few weeks now, okay? This is very bad indications of things like bond market crash, okay? Now, you got to keep in mind, okay? A bond is debt, okay? Bond is money that you lend to a company or someone for a guaranteed return of essentially interest, okay? It is like taking out a U.S. government savings bond, right? That's what it is. A bond is debt. Now what we're talking about is all of this debt becoming illiquid. And anytime something like this happens, as it did in the financial collapse of 2009, the question always becomes, who is going to be the one holding the bag? Okay. 9 times out of 10, Main Street America, Joe Sixpack, who bought bonds in hopes to grow their wealth just a little bit by X amount percent, 9 times out of 10, they're the ones that end up holding the bag. And that's a gross overgeneralization of a statement. I get it. But that certainly is really the way it went down with the John Corzine scandal, the Bernie Madoff scandal, and the financial collapse of 2009. Okay. Just to name a few. Okay. So things are looking kind of rough in the economy. Okay. That's a good way to just kind of leave it there. Okay. All right. I've got an article I clipped here from Sub TWT. Okay. And I clipped it on the 19th, it looks like. Okay. And this is a series of tweets by a dude named Guy Labasse. And I really liked these tweets because they succinctly explain what's going on with this repo mess. I'm going to read the tweets in order. Here is number 1. Quick primer. What is repo and why do we care all of a sudden? Tweet number 2. Repo, repurchase, or reverse repurchase agreement is a common way to finance a bond. Essentially, an owner buys a bond and then borrows, say, 95% of the value of that bond, posting the bond as collateral. Tweet number 3. It's a really common way of financing treasuries, mortgage-backed securities, other low-risk bonds. Hundreds of billions of dollars trade every day. It is the main overnight borrowing rate in terms of volume, and while the Federal Reserve doesn't control it, they have a lot of influence over repo. Tweet number 4. Why do we care in one chart? And I've got the chart here, dear listener. I can't show it to you in audio format. Let's just trust me. It doesn't look very good. Just trust me, okay? Yeah, doesn't look very good. Overnight repo rate suddenly spiked to, this is tweet number 5. Tweet number 5. Overnight repo rate suddenly spiked to 7% yesterday after rising steadily through the day. They're opening 7 to 10% this morning. That's a big and unexpected increase in financing cost for many asset owners. But the alternative is insolvency, so they pay it. Here's tweet number 6. A host of short-term things like corporate bond issuance, treasury settlements, tax payments, and such are coming together to squeeze the financing markets, but this is a symptom, not the underlying problem. Tweet number 7. The underlying problem is that primary dealer balance sheets are chock full of treasuries caused by increased issuance, and dealers desperately need to finance those treasuries, which limits the flexibility of the system when short-term needs arise. Tweet number 8. Normally, the New York Fed would fix these short-term problems with TOMOs, or temporary open market operations. Essentially, they become repo lenders, but they appear non-reactive thus far for whatever reason. Tweet number 9. My worry is a simple one. When repo rates spike, the weakest borrower gets squeezed the hardest, and surprises tend to emerge because there's no cheap financing to paper them over. I'm talking about hedge funds blow up, surprise losses from large but marginal banking entities, the truly unpredictable stuff. When repo breaks, risk markets tend to suffer the consequences. P.S. The New York Fed launches $75 billion TOMO to regain control of EFFR. See how it goes? And then he tweeted the New York Fed's tweet. Really scary stuff here, dear listener. So what you're talking about with these repo rates rising is that the financing of the financial system is suddenly becoming much more expensive, very much more expensive. And if it gets too expensive, the system breaks. This is not unlike what happened in 2009, although it is quite different than what happened in 2009, but it's not at all unlike that. It's the same type of thing. We call this illiquidity, right? There's not enough liquid cash in the market to cover margin calls, to cover accounts, to cover treasuries, to cover bonds, right? There's not enough money in the system to be able to change hands just to cover balance sheets. It's bad shit. It's really bad shit. And that was from September 19th, and it continues to this day. There's been a really unsteady repo market rate right now, and that's still happening. We're going to keep our eye on it. If this goes in the direction that I'm thinking it's going to go, this will become a major, major, major story, right? Now, there are a lot of people who would be tempted to say, well, of course, we expected this to happen because the liberals are going to try to tank the market before the election so that Donald Trump takes the blame for it. Refer to what I just said about how Donald Trump has positioned himself pretty well politically in terms of forcing the Fed to take the fall for if we have a market collapse of some type. I would also enter into evidence Trump is a financial guy, right? He's not like George W. Bush and Obama, who are complete effing idiots about the financial markets. He knows what's going on with this stuff, and he's not going to believe any bullshit from any ill-intended advisors. He's going to know exactly what needs to happen with these markets. So if any president that we've ever had in any of our lifetimes, he has a greater chance of fixing some type of economic collapse pretty quickly. But overall, you know what? I don't disagree. Yeah, I think the liberals are probably going to try to tank the market and make Trump eat it, right before the election. I do. I mean, Wall Street is all about the big business Democrats, okay? They vote, I'd say 80%, 85% Democrat, right? They all knew she would win. I believe that she will win. That's what Wall Street was literally chanting every day. They really thought she would, right? But she didn't. All right. I've got two stories here about deep state shenanigans, and then I want to get off this topic because I want to spend a little bit of time on Dallas. All right. I just finished off my gin. That was good. That hit the spot. You know what? Now that we're here taking a break, I need this beer too. I need this beer. Let me take a sip of beer here real quick, dear listeners. Excuse me. That's good. You ever notice how I'm such a polite swallower? How I don't make swallowing noises? I hate swallowing noises, dear listener. They absolutely drive me crazy. So I've trained myself to not make swallowing noises. True story. I don't know if that gets on your nerves too. Most people I know, it doesn't really bother them. They don't even think about it. But oh my God, it drives me crazy, And I mean, like stomach growling noises kind of drive me. Not really. I mean, stomach growling noises I can take. I think they're kind of funny, but swallowing, damn, man. Oh, makes my skin crawl. Anyway, moving on. All right. Deep state shenanigans. Yet another Zero Hedge piece. This issue, number 20 of Bots, Thoughts, and Drops, is brought to you by Zero Hedge and Tyler Durden's. Tylers, thank you so much for your sponsorship. Truly, Tylers, thank you so much for the information. Y'all do great work, and I really appreciate it. The headline of this piece is DOJ sued for docs on FBI CIA informant who spearheaded Trump Tower Moscow scheme. Take it from the lead. It goes thus. A FOIA lawsuit filed on Monday by Judicial Watch against the Department of Justice seeks all records of communications regarding one Felix Sater, a former Trump Organization official known to U.S. intelligence as, quote, the quarterback, who was recently confirmed to be an informant for both the FBI and the CIA. Gee, say it ain't so. You mean there's another person that the FBI and the CIA employed to take a run at the Trump campaign? Really? Say it ain't so. So shocking. Sater went from a Wall Street wunderkind working at Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, both of which are now gone, to getting barred from the securities industry over a barroom brawl, which led to a year in prison, and to facilitating a $40 million pump and dump stock scheme for the New York Mafia, to working telecom deals in Russia, where the FBI and CIA tapped him in the late 1990s as an undercover intelligence asset who was told by his handler, quote, "I want you to understand, if you're caught, the USA is going to disavow you, and at best, you get a bullet in the head," according to BuzzFeed. Sater reportedly, quote, began working with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 1998 after he was caught in a stock fraud scheme. It was Andrew Weissman, who, as supervising assistant U.S. attorney, signed the agreement that brought Sater on as a government informant. Let me read that one more again. It was Andrew Weissman, Robert Mueller's pit bull, who, as supervising assistant U.S. attorney, signed the agreement that brought Sater on as a government informant. And this man's working for Donald Trump. Are you effing kidding me? Federal prosecutors wrote a letter to Sater's sentencing judge on August 27, 2009 in an effort to get him a lighter sentence. Quote, Sater's cooperation was of a depth and breadth rarely seen. Yeah, I'm so sure. Sater also spearheaded the failed Trump Tower Moscow scheme with former Donald Trump attorney Michael Cohen, according to the same report, which BuzzFeed walked back some months later. I'm going to skip down the piece a little bit to the section entitled A Sater Setup. Interestingly, Judicial Watch Chief Investigative Reporter Micah Morrison noted in June that, quote, beginning in late 2015, Sater repeatedly tried to arrange for Trump attorney Michael Cohen and candidate Trump as representatives of the Trump Organization to travel to Russia to meet with Russian government officials and possible financing partners. The Trump campaign appears to have rejected Sater's attempts. However, the Mueller report notes that, quote, Sater and Cohen continued to discuss a trip to Moscow, end quote, in the spring of 2016 and tried to arrange a meeting between Putin and Trump. So we're clear. An FBI CIA informant attempted to arrange a meeting between Donald Trump and President Putin right as Russiagate was beginning to heat up, perhaps in an effort to take Trump down for the so-called deep state he worked for. Was a Russian real estate deal being pushed on the Trump Organization part of a setup by FBI CIA informant, asked Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton? As we noted last March of Sater's assistance to the U.S. government, during the course of his work for all agencies, all unpaid anyway. All right, we're not going to read all this stuff, but it's interesting stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's great work, Tyler's. But you get the point here, dear listener. You get it, right? Felix Sater, a deep stater. Sater, the deep stater, gets busted for getting in fights, trade rigging, all this kind of stuff. He goes downtown for a year. He gets out, right? The FBI and CIA approach him in 99. They're like, hey, Felix Sater, you want to come work for us? We probably can put you to work. You seem pretty devious. You could probably work pretty well for us. You're our kind of guy, right? So he does go to work for them, right? He gets busted again in 2009. They go vouch for him in court to try to get him a lighter sentence. He goes downtown. He gets out of jail again, right? Then all of a sudden he shows up in 2016 in Donald Trump's orbit trying to broker a deal between Trump and Michael Cohen and Russia. Oh, and by the way, who was it that signed him up to the FBI or CIA or both? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Andrew Weissman. Dang. How many runs did they take at this president, dear listener? How do we have this president right now? I mean, all this impeach nonsense, right? Russia. Oh my God. We know for a fact it was never Russia, as we have said in these hallowed halls for months now. It was Ukraine, and the Democrats. And that is now coming to light by the brilliant political strategy of our president. Way to go, Mr. President. But I'm not going to get on that right there because that is top of the stack material reserved exclusively for Luke and I on Hardly Strictly Politics. But that's what the story has always been. What I want you to ponder, dear listener. Okay, we've got Alexander Downer, Stephen Halper, Mifsud. All of these took runs at the Trump campaign in the form of George Papadopoulos and Carter Page. We know this for a fact. We know exactly how they did it. The push-pull of information. Hey, I hear Hillary's got I hear the Russians have Hillary's emails. Have you heard anything about that? No, I haven't heard that. 1 week later, Downer goes up to Papadopoulos. Hey, I hear this information that the Russians have Hillary's emails. Have you heard anything about that? Yeah, you know what? I did hear something about that. That's kind of funny you say that. This crazy bastard Stephen Halper said it to me about a week ago. Boom. Now George Papadopoulos is guilty of knowing about the fact that Russia hacked the DNC server. Oh my God. Which they didn't. Ukraine owned the DNC server. Russia didn't hack it. Ukraine owned it, right? And they still own it. And we're going to see what's on that server, dear listener. You believe that? Let me not get ahead. Let me not get ahead anymore, okay? So we've got these three spooks taking a run at Donald Trump, right? We've got Alexandria, what's her name? Oh, God. She was the special representative of Obama to Ukraine that was also taking a run at Donald Trump. That's about right. Oh, God. Oh, it skips me at the moment. Dear listener, I was just reading an article about her too. Alexandria, I can see her face in my head even, and I can't think of her name. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. But she was taking a run at Trump and Manafort in Ukraine, trying to drum up illicit information about them. Now we find out about this Felix Sater. Now, to be honest, this isn't brand new, hot off the presses news, okay? I knew that Felix Sater was involved in this. I think we all knew that Felix Sater was involved in this. He is mentioned in Spygate in Dan Bongino's book. I can tell you that for sure, right? Bongino knew that Felix Sater was involved in this. I don't think that we knew that the extent to which Felix Sater was involved in this. Excuse me, dear listener. In terms of trying to broker deals with Russia, and Trump while they were already probably investigating him for Russia collusion. See how that works? They start a secret investigation. The investigation's open. Then they run Felix Sater at him to try to get him to meet with Russia, right? Right? At the same time that Christopher Steele is putting together a fake dossier about Russia collusion, right? You see how this works? How many more of these are we going to find out about? How deep does this go? This is an absolutely, Rudy Giuliani is right. This is a shockingly, embarrassingly, despicably corrupt DOJ and FBI we have on our hands right now. It is absolutely despicable, right? And he was just saying that on Sean Hannity tonight. He's right. You know, he's absolutely right. All right. Well, now we've hit the DOJ and the FBI. We're going to rag on the State Department here for a little bit. Okay. I've got a piece here, dropped just yesterday. It's on, what website is this? Oh, yeah, it's on Business and Politics Review. That's what it is, right? And this is a credible source. Everybody's going to say, like, oh, my God, Business and Politics Review, law. No, this is a very credible source, okay? It's written by Samantha Chang yesterday. The title is, Watchdog Group Reveals State Department Knew About Hillary's Private Email Use. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. The State Department just released a previously hidden email showing that the Obama administration was aware that Hillary Clinton had used a private emails account on her unsecured email server to conduct government business when she was Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013. The revelation was made possible because of government watchdog, once again, the God-tier Judicial Watch doing the work, which has been doggedly pursuing the Hillary email scandal since 2015. Judicial Watch just caught the State Department and DOJ red-handed in yet another email cover-up, said Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. They all knew about the Clinton email account, but covered up the smoking gun email showing this guilty knowledge for years. In the December 2010 email, Obama State Department Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Daniel Baer wrote to Michael Posner, a then Assistant Secretary of State, about Clinton private email messages. Be careful, you just gave the Secretary's personal email address to a bunch of folks. The State Department official then warned that Hillary didn't want a lot of people to know about her private email account and said she guards it pretty closely. Yeah, imagine that. Here's the exact transcript. On December 24th, 2010, Daniel Baer, an Obama State Department... Okay, all right. Baer, be careful. Let's read it. Read it and concentrate this. Imagine this in email conversation here real quick. Baer, be careful. You just gave the Secretary's personal email address to a bunch of folks. Posner answers, should I say I don't forward? Did not notice? Yeah. I just know that she guards it pretty closely. You see, Posner's even asking Bear there, oh shit, should I go back and try to say something exculpatory about this to excuse myself about this? Should I say I don't forward? Should I say I didn't notice? Yeah, you should do something because she guards her personal email account pretty closely because she's running government business off her bathhouse email server. Yeah, you just effed up, bro. Pretty bad, right? They all knew it. They all knew it. And we already know that they knew it because we know that Hillary Clinton had been writing Barack Hussein Obama from that email account, from that server, directly to his government account. I mean, do you ever not check the email address for where it comes from? I always do. I mean, it's always listed right there. All you got to do is look, right? You don't even really have to click anything. You just look at it. Oh, this is from clintonmail.com? Dang. Why doesn't that say state.gov? Huh. Barack Obama is not a stupid man. He's a conniving man. He's an evil man. He knew about it all the way back then. I just found out about it when you did on the news today. I don't think that's really that big a deal. I'm not very worried about it. I'm sure Hillary's everything she's doing is on the up and up, and we're just going to keep on keeping on. That's exactly pretty much what he said. Scumbags, man. Absolute scumbags. And not only that, they're busted scumbags, but dear listener, do you notice the thing that chaps my ass the most? Do you notice the date on this email? December 24th, 2010. That's 9 years ago, man. That's almost a decade ago. This is how effectively these people get away with this crap. Deflect, deny, until when the information comes out, it's too late. Because honestly, it is too late to do anything about this. I mean, Tom Fitton's just kind of he's doing the work, he's doing the noble work, but he's doing the vindication work right now. You see, we were right about all that. And when we bust your ass with this shit in Ukraine too, we're going to be right about that too. We're proving our credibility about Benghazi and all this crap and Hillary's email server. We were right about that. We're going to be right about Ukraine too. That's what's going on here. It's vindication work. It's like proof of how conspiracy theory becomes conspiracy fact, dear listener. That's what it is. Conspiracy fact. All right. Excuse me, dear listener. Sorry. Talk about Dallas a little bit. All right. This is the topic that is really close to me right now, physically and in my mind as well. When I was living in San Francisco and everything in San Francisco just absolutely started going to hell, human feces on the streets, needles on the streets, homeless people everywhere, right? Well, I would come to Dallas when I would come back and visit my family here in Texas. And, I would run around town and stuff, and I'd always be like, man, Dallas is so pretty. They spent all this money, dear listener, like rebuilding the city. All of these, civic features went up everywhere. All this cool stuff they built everywhere. And it became very opulent. They put in all these lights. I'd be like driving through it, and I'd be like, man, there's only one city in the world that this reminds me of, and that's Vegas. The way it's so lit up and active, and everything is so cool looking, and just a cool vibe everywhere you go, And, there's still good things about Dallas. But slowly, dear listener, Dallas is absolutely going to hell. Absolutely going to hell. And, I feel like, I just moved back to Texas, to be closer to my family and all that kind of stuff. And I am not in Dallas proper, but I'm very, very close to Dallas, right? And I'm in Dallas frequently. Like that's my city at this point in time. You know what I mean? When you're going to go to the big city, you know what I mean? Go out to the club. Well, you're going to go to Dallas, Well, things have just been absolutely going to shit here. And why is this? It's because of liberal politics through and through. That's why this city is going to hell. And at this point in time, dear listener, I think I've pretty much made up my mind. I've already been through this in San Francisco. Man, I moved to San Francisco, a long time ago. I was there for a very long time. It was so beautiful. Everybody was so nice. Then everything, all of a sudden, everything started going to hell. Prices started going and increasing. You start hearing about your friends getting attacked on the streets and stuff like this. And all of a sudden, it becomes a situation of like, man, why am I paying all this damn money to live in a shithole like this, right? This is an absolute shithole, right? Well, Dallas is well on its way to that right now due to liberal politics. Now, I'm going to explain it to you a little bit, okay? What exactly it is that's going on here, okay? Well, Dallas elected a new district attorney last year, right, who took office on January 1st of this year. His name was John Creuzot, okay? Now, I've got a piece here. What is this? It's a morning news piece, okay? I'm just going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. John Creuzot has pledged to reduce mass incarceration, improve access to mental health of drug treatment, and reduce prosecution of nonviolent offenses. He says that part of that work will involve additional training for prosecutors. The incoming Dallas district attorney, who ran on a platform of criminal justice reform, has fired 12 prosecutors, including the heads of the juvenile, crimes against children, and appellate divisions. Democrat John Creuzot, who handily defeated Republican Faith Johnson in the November 6th election, made the staffing changes before he takes office on Tuesday. The 12 prosecutors will not be sworn in with the rest of the staff that day. Creuzot has pledged to reduce mass incarceration. Okay, I already read that. That was the headline. Creuzot critiqued his predecessor's decision to keep on staff an attorney who prosecuted a capital murder case that was later overturned after an appellate court found evidence that was withheld. That prosecutor, Stara Romer, was one of the dozen people fired before Creuzot takes office. Creuzot has not publicly explained why he decided not to keep the other 11 prosecutors, though it's not uncommon for the incoming top prosecutor to hire the new people for the administration. The incoming DA also let go Rhonda Hunter, the chief of the juvenile division, Laura Ordaway, the chief of the appellate division, Aaron Prince, and Rainey Tinajero, the chief deputy chief of crimes against children division. He's clearing the way for pedos. That's what it is. You see what it is, right? They were strict on crimes against children. Yeah, we got to get rid of them, man. We got to let these pedos run wild here in Dallas. And Peter Harlan, the chief of federal litigation division. Okay, so he came in and he absolutely cleaned house, and he was like, you know what? We're not going to prosecute nonviolent crime. We're not going to prosecute low-level drug offense. We're not going to be just running this school to jail highway that we got going on here in the city of Dallas. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to fix it. So what he decided to do, he went in, cleaned house, got rid of all the reasonable prosecutors they had there in the city of Dallas, right? And he decided that what he was going to do was not prosecute robbery, for example, unless it exceeded $1,000, right? So you break into a store, you steal $999 worth of merchandise. Well, guess what? You're not going to get prosecuted. Well, guess what happened once he did that? We've seen robbery spike, dear listener, in this city of Dallas, Texas. Absolutely go through the roof. There are break-ins happening everywhere. Car break-ins, just like on Nob Hill when I was in San Francisco, just like right there, right? Break-ins galore, store break-ins, car break-ins, home break-ins, right? What do you think is going to happen when you don't prosecute? You're going to get more of that crime, right? This is why you have to be strict on crime, because it is a disincentive to commit that crime. And if you're not strict on that crime, then that is an incentive to commit that crime. But his point is this: well, these people, they're just trying to get their diapers for their children, and they ain't trying to cause no harm to nobody. But they can steal $999 worth of diaper, and I'm not going to take them downtown. Well, guess what? Then people are going to go steal $999 worth of diapers, right? Somebody paid for those diapers. Some merchant paid for those diapers. And so the city is absolutely being bled in a socialistic way, in a fascist way, of all of its capital due to all of this robbery. Okay? I'm going to go on a little bit. I've got a KERA piece here, right? And KERA is the local PBS affiliate. So I've got to read this piece in NPR voice. So here we go. Let me get ready for this. If a poor person steals food or diapers or other essential items that they need but can't afford to pay for, should they be prosecuted? Dallas County District Attorney John Creuzot says no. It's one of several new policy reforms that Creuzot called a step forward to ending mass incarceration, and possibly the most controversial. Creuzot launched his bid to unseat District Attorney Faith Johnson last year, pledging to roll back policies that led to incarceration and disparities in the justice system, but have dubious public safety value. Dubious public safety value, indeed. On Thursday, he announced the changes are a first step in fulfilling his campaign promises. In an open letter, Crusoe discussed his commitment to not charge some lower-level drug crimes, which are enforced more often when offenders are people of color. He outlined policy changes related to bail and probation aimed at reducing the number of people in jail. And he decried a justice system that criminalizes poverty, saying he doesn't intend to prosecute offenses that often punish people living in poverty who are homeless and who are mentally ill. That includes a move to stop prosecuting people for theft of personal items worth less than $750. It only applies to necessary items, Crusoe says. Theft or economic gain or resale will be charged. Theft for economic gain. I blew that last line. These cucks. And it's not $750. It's $1,000. Okay. Not that it makes any difference, man. You steal a stick of chewing gum. If you're a white man in Dallas, Texas, you're going downtown, right? You heard what he just said. Persons of color, mentally ill. We're not going to enforce crimes against them. They can steal up to $750, but that's not what it turned out to be, dear listener. No. It turned out to be $1,000, right? And so you see absolute lawlessness in Dallas, Texas. I've got a Tribune piece here. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. After May's 40 homicides, let me read that one mo again. After May's 40 homicides, Governor Greg Abbott deployed state troops to Dallas. Despite some drops in violent crime, city officials say they've done more harm than good. Of course, yeah, we got to get rid of this crime here. We need more police. We need more police up in here. We got to stop all this crime. Then the cops get there and start giving out traffic tickets. Oh man, these cops, we got to get these cops off our streets. We need these cops out of here, right? Meanwhile, there's still no consensus on what's driving the increase as victims' families are left to grapple with grief. As Joseph Pintucci's 18th birthday approached, his aunt and legal guardian, Andrea Haig, spent dinners listening to the Highland Park High School graduate rattle through the list of cars for sale he had flagged throughout the day. His maternal uncle, Ben Harrington, would chime in on whether each one was worth the money. A few years after Pintucci learned how to drive, his adoptive parents finally had the financial means to buy him a vehicle, which was all he wanted for his 18th birthday. Haig was worried, like she had been when Pintucci first got behind the wheel, that the search would be a rough experience, but the process of finding Pintucci's white 2002 Lincoln Town Car ended up bonding their family. Less than 6 months later, Pintucci was shot and killed in that sedan in the parking garage of Dallas Shopping Complex near the city's North Park Center. That's North Park Mall right there, dear listener. That used to be the posh part of town, North Park Mall, and he gets shot and killed in the parking garage at North Park Mall. The teenager was waiting to sell marijuana, but when the buyers, 3 male teens, showed up, police said they placed guns to the heads of Pintucci and others in the car and took the vape cartridges. Before running away, one of the suspects shot and killed Pintucci. Okay. Now, you see, there's plenty of blame here to go around. The kid was selling weed cartridges. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're asking for nothing but trouble if you're selling drugs in a North Park parking garage, okay? In the North Park parking garage. You truly are not. Is it worthy of murder? No, it's not. And that was murder, right? That was not manslaughter. You know, that was not any type of involuntary homicide. It was not manslaughter. That was murder, okay? So where we're at right now, dear listener, is that as of August of this year, when this Texas Tribune was printed on August 15th, there have been 135 homicides in Dallas so far this year. 40 homicides in May alone. And in May, it was most noticeable, there is an outbreak in transsexual murder here in Dallas. Now, despite its reputation, Dallas has always been a very homosexual-friendly city. Always, right? So as far back as I can remember, it always has been, right? So there's been this massive outbreak of transsexuals being killed in really violent ways. There's some things that indicate to me just the pattern of transsexual murders happening here, that there must be some type of serial killer here, but the details of all of these killings are quite different. So I doubt that it's a serial killer. The devil's in the details with a serial killer. Always, dear listener. There are always clearly identifiable patterns there, right? There are no patterns here, right? So I don't know. It's just open season on transsexuals. 135 homicides in the city of Dallas through August 15th. What does that sound like to you? What city does that sound like to you? Well, that to me sounds something like Botham. Sounds something like Chicago, right? You know, gosh, speaking of Chicago, what else does that remind me of? Well, this DA sounds a lot like the DA in Chicago, Kim Foxx. Kim Foxx, the one who let Jussie Smollett go for lying about a hate crime and accusing and impugning the character of all Trump supporters, and absolutely let him go for falsifying a hate crime. As Luke and I have always said, you ever notice how hate crimes are only levied toward white people? You ever notice that? Like, I've never heard of an African American being accused of a hate crime. I've never heard of a Mexican American being accused of a hate crime, or an illegal, even for that matter. Not one time, right? Not one time. But man, this Creuzot son of a bitch sounds a whole lot like Kim Foxx in Chicago. And their policies are remarkably similar, right? Basically, like I said, you steal a stick of chewing gum and you're white, your ass is going downtown. You commit a triple homicide and you're black. Oh, well, you know what? We're just going to let you off on probation for this one. You know, this is no big deal. Jussie Smollett faking this hate crime hoax. You know what? We're just going to totally let you go for this one. That's no big deal. No harm, no foul. Nothing happened here, right? Similar policies in these two cities, and these two cities are similarly, absolutely going to hell. Absolutely going to hell. Imagine that. Dear listener, this is liberal politics on steroids. It is race-based politics, which I thought that we had grown beyond, but no, we haven't. Dear listener, I'm telling you, get the hell out of these major cities. Chicago, Dallas, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, Baltimore. Get out. Houston. Get out of these cities. Denver. It's not worth it. It's not worth your life, and it's not worth the risk of prosecution. I will be getting the hell out of here as soon as I possibly can. You believe that? All right, well, here's the piece I've got that's going to tie all of these two stories that I have about Dallas going on here together, okay? It's another Dallas Morning News piece. This one dropped on September 24th, about a week ago, okay? The headline is Dallas County DA, right? That's Creuzot right there. Dallas County DA spoke about Amber Guyger case on eve of murder trial, much to judge's dismay, okay? I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. During a hearing Monday, before testimony began in the first day of Amber Guyger's murder trial, the district judge, Tammy Kemp, was visibly upset to learn, and she's also a social justice warrior, Black Lives Matter radical judge, but we're not going to talk about her in this little ditty right here, was visibly upset to learn that Dallas County District Attorney John Creuzot had taken part in an interview about the case on TV the night before. Guyger's defense attorneys questioned whether Creuzot violated a gag order by discussing the case in an interview with KDFW TV Channel 4. The gag order prevents prosecutors and the defense from speaking publicly about the case. In the interview, which aired Sunday night, Creuzot spoke about whether Guyger should have been charged with manslaughter or murder based on the facts of the case. He told the station that murder was the appropriate charge. Of course, she's white. Why else would he think that murder is the appropriate charge? Because Amber Guyger is a white girl. And second of all, under a gag order, why in the hell is Creuzot talking to the media about this in the first place? Well, I'll tell you why, dear listener. Here's the answer. Because he wants to propagandize the fact that Amber Guyger is a murderer, that she needs to be tried for murder. Do you know why? Because she's white. That's why. And nobody's going to call it like this. Nobody's going to tell you the raw facts like it is, dear listener, but I got boots on the ground right here. You might have heard some things about this here and there in the national media. The national media is trying to race bait and hype this up as a racially based case, which it's not, and I can prove it right now. I've been really involved with this case, right? So let me explain to you the basic facts on the ground about what happened in the Amber Guyger case, okay? Amber Guyger was a former Dallas police officer, okay? And on September 6th of 2018, an incident went down at her apartments, which are called the Southside Lofts, which I've been to many, many times. I've had numerous friends that lived in the Southside Lofts, right? And the facts of the case are these, okay? She was having an affair with her married partner, and I'm not going to say his name because they're trying to railroad him, and I don't want to give him any more traction because he's going to get effed in this whole thing. And to be fair, he did delete some texts. That's not really deleting evidence because you can get the phone records, but he deleted the texts, right? That she was sexting him that night after she had worked a 13-hour day on a Friday night of September the 6th, 2018, okay? She got off work after a long day, right? There are a lot of people that say that she was drunk. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but I know that did not become an issue in the case, and I would like to think that if she was drunk, this definitely would have become an issue in the case, okay? Now, he is a married man with kids, okay? And she is screwing him, okay? Straight up. And she's sexting him on her phone as she's driving in her car on the way from the station 2 blocks away to the Southside Lofts, right? She enters the parking garage at the Lofts, and because she's sexting, she's an adulteress, right? Because she's sexting her mutual adulterer, she misses which floor of the parking garage she's on, and she parks 1 floor above where she normally parked. And she wasn't paying attention because she was sexting this guy. She was literally saying, "Oh my God, I'm so horny right now." She's saying this, okay? That's a fact, okay? She goes into the apartment, goes over to what she thinks is her apartment, right? And the door, she goes and swipes her key card and the door opens, okay? Now, the door wasn't closed all the way, but she swipes her key card to get into her apartment and the door opens, at which point in time she smells weed smoke, right? And she hears shuffling going around in the apartment. Now, keep in mind, she thought that this was her apartment. She totally thought this was her apartment. Was she wrong? Yes, she was critically wrong. She was 1 floor up, above, directly above where her apartment is. Now, everybody's really condemning on her on this and calling her how stupid she is and stuff. Dear listener, I've got to say, when I was living in San Francisco, I put my key in the wrong apartment door hundreds of times. Hundreds of times, being like, "Oh, my key's not working. What's the matter? Did they change the locks? Oh, I'm on the 5th floor. Oops." You know what I mean? That happened to me all the time. Drunk, not drunk, numerous different times. That's all I'm going to say about that. I think a lot of people make this mistake. Hell, just this week, I went up to what I thought was my car, and I'm sitting there hitting my key fob to unlock the car door, and the car won't open. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with my car? And I'm like, oh shit, this isn't my car, right? This type of thing happens all the time when you're distracted, especially after a 13-hour day at work, right? But really, it's about because she was sexting her adulterer partner, her partner that she works with, like her police partner, not her life partner, her police partner is what I mean here. And she didn't pay attention to where she was. Now, all of a sudden, she comes home. She's carrying her vest. She's carrying her police pack. She's still in full uniform, right? The door opens up when she tries to slide her key card. She smells weed smoke, and there's somebody there in her apartment. So she draws her gun, kicks open the door, finds him in the apartment, points the gun at him, and says, "Show me your hands. Show me your hands," right? He gets up. He's like, what the hell? What are you doing in my apartment? And he stands up, and she starts walking toward her, and she blasts him. 2 shots to the heart. He's dead. He's dead. And those are the facts of the case right there. Okay? It really is just an absolutely horrible situation. Okay? Horrible situation. Now, this dude, Botham John is his name. He was smoking weed in his apartment, but by all accounts, this was a really solid dude, okay? He was an accountant. He worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers. He wasn't just an accountant. He was a big ballin', really good accountant, right? He was not some kind of hood rat. He was a good man, okay? He literally went to church every Sunday and Wednesday, and he had a friend with whom he would go to church, and they would go have dinner after they went to church, and they would talk about what they learned in the sermon that night. Like, he's that type of religious. Like, except for smoking weed on the night that Amber Guyger shot him on his couch as he's eating a bowl of vanilla ice cream, right? He seems like absolutely an absolute choir boy outside of the fact that he was smoking weed that night, right? This is a little bit hard to listen to, and I'm not going to play all of it, and I'm going to zoom in to about 50 seconds, okay? This is the 911 call from Amber Guyger when she called 911 after she had just shot Jean. Here it is.
Thinking it was my apartment.
He saw someone?
Yes, I thought it was my apartment. I'm fucked. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Okay, and where are you at right now?
I'm in, what do you mean? I'm inside the apartment with him. Hey, come on.
What's your name?
I'm Amber Guyger. I need to get me, I'm in.
Okay, we have help on the way.
I know, but I'm going to lose my job. I thought it was my apartment.
Okay, and
Hey, man.
fine. Hold on.
Fuck.
Okay, stay with me, okay?
I need a new
We
supervisor.
have help.
I'm going to zoom forward. She's saying, hey, bud, wake up.
And what's the gate code there?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I thought it was my apartment.
They're trying to get in there. We have an officer there. You don't know the gate code?
No. I thought it was my apartment.
Okay, and what floor are you in right now?
The fourth. Hey, bud, they're coming, bud. I'm sorry, man.
Okay, where was he shot?
He's on the top left.
All right, they're cutting off there. We can go ahead and cut it off. You get the point of what happened, right? So let me read some comments. This was a clip that WFAA put up on YouTube, right? Here's some comments that popped up in the comments section. This is one of the bigger ones. The bitch was worried about herself. The next one. Fact, she went into an apartment and murdered an innocent man. Everything else is just noise. I'm going to lose my job. She's worried about her goddamn job instead of trying to save the victim. Someone with such a lack of awareness of their surroundings, threat level assessment, and cracking under pressure should not be on the job, period. She was more worried about her job than rendering CPR. The man is dying and she said, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job. The next comment. One more comment. I just killed an innocent man, but I'm going to lose my job. Oh my God. Give her an Oscar for her performance. Just like all the other guilty criminals, they try to explain their situation first. So you get the point. She was judged by the social justice warrior mob before all of the facts of the case came out. Okay? Well, so it turns out that this does go to trial. Of course, this goes to trial because, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to virtue signal for Amber Guyger here or anything like that. Man, she effed up. She's got to go downtown, and she's got to go downtown for a while, okay? But they brought the charge of murder against her. Murder. Stop and think about that. That means that with intent, with pre-existing intent, you went and killed somebody. Do you think for a moment, listen, she's guilty of plenty right here. She's a serial adulterer. She's messing with a married man, right? She's texting him. Very uncop-like, not aware of her situation at all, right? But she thinks it's her apartment when she gets there, right? The prosecution tried to make the case that there was a red greeting mat outside the door, so there's no way she could have known that that was her apartment, but she did think that was her apartment. Listen, when I listen to the 911 call and I hear her saying this stuff, I believe her. She is freaking out. She is on the verge of breaking right then. I believe her, right? So it's not murder, okay? It's not murder. So then it becomes the case of, is it manslaughter? And when you read the Texas Penal Code, Section 8, right, there are several things that clearly indicate that this isn't manslaughter either, right? Because it wasn't accidental. She meant to kill his ass. And she testified that in court to her doom. She testified, they said, did you mean to kill him? She's like, hell yeah, I meant to kill him. I'm a cop. You know, I don't shoot my gun at somebody and try not to kill him. Right? And I'm going to play some of that here in a minute, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Right? Well, that totally got her convicted guilty of murder when she did not commit murder. She screwed up so bad, and she really absolutely needs to have the book thrown at her. There is no question about it, man. She is guilty of so many things, but is she guilty of murder? No. No, she's not. No, she's not. But the race pimps got involved. All the attorneys got involved. Hell, I'm surprised Al Sharpton wasn't here on this case. In fact, I think that both he and the Reverend Jesse Jackson, sorry, Rush, I just had to do it. This is my one chance to do it, man. The Reverend Jesse Jackson are going to be down here after the events that have transpired today. Okay? All right, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me play some of Amber Guyger's testimony for you, okay? They called her to the stand last Friday as a witness in her own trial, okay? Here's some of what she had to say.
And you fired? Why did you fire?
I was scared. I was scared this person's apartment was going to hurt me. And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Ms. Guyger, could you please repeat your answer?
I was scared. Whoever was inside my apartment was going to kill me. And I'm sorry. I have to live with that every single day that I hurt.
Sustain.
Now that you know, you found out, you came around that counter and shot an innocent man. How do you feel about that?
No police officer ever would want to hurt an innocent person.
I can't understand. Ms. Guyger, take a second to collect yourself before you speak.
All right, let's just stop it right there. It's literally, it's too awful for me to listen to, dear listener. Yeah, so like she cannot collect herself. The prosecution is being really harsh on her. Your Honor, I can't understand. Objection. They're just being absolutely shitty to this broken girl. She's 31 years old. She's not even really a woman. She's a girl, right? Absolutely broken. Does that sound like a murderer to you, dear listener? What you just heard? Does that sound like somebody who, with malice and with intent, went and murdered someone? Is that what that sounds like to you? Because it certainly doesn't sound that way to me. Now, did she screw up? Yes, she did really bad. She broke into somebody's apartment thinking it was hers and went and killed the dude. My God. Absolutely yes. She's got to go downtown, and she's got to go downtown for a really long time. But did she murder somebody? You know what? I've already made my point. I'm just going to leave it to you. Well, let's read some of the comments here on this YouTube video. This YouTube video dropped 5 days ago. She's crying because she doesn't want to go to prison, not because she killed that man. She said, I hate that I have to live with this for the rest of my life. Yeah, I bet you do. No, that's not what she said. Dear listener, we're not going to play the rest of this testimony, but do you know what she said? The defense attorney asked her, what do you wish would have happened? She said, I wish he would have had a gun and put me in the ground because I can't live this way. I just got chills thinking about that. Stop and think about that. I wish he would have had a gun and put me in the ground. I'm going to guess Botham John was more scared than someone was breaking into his house and shooting him. I never wanted to take an innocent person's life. Yeah, except when you did. We should all feel empathy for the mother whose innocent child is dead because he was eating ice cream in his own home. I'm sorry isn't going to bring that poor man back. Life in prison is what she deserves. Justice for Botham John, the man who died for absolutely no reason. Imagine how scared Botham was. Invades home and kills you. Truly a nightmare coming to life. R.I.P., brother. You see what it is? Unanimous in consent in these comments. She is guilty. She has to die. She has to spend her life in prison. Why? Because number one, she's a cop, and number two, she is white. And she's automatically guilty. The facts of the case don't matter at all. Just like our president is guilty. Just like you are guilty, white person. You are guilty because you are white. This country is guilty because this country is evil. This country is guilty due to its very founding. And that is what you're seeing played out in what is supposed to be the impeccable court system, our court of law. You are seeing a verdict rendered before a trial happens. And the verdict was rendered in this trial before this trial ever happened, dear listener. I tell you what, that woman was guilty. She was a murderer. An absolute murderer. It was pre-decided. Now, I will say this is one of the shittiest prosecutions I've ever seen in my entire life in any trial. And this is one of the shittiest defenses I've ever seen in my entire life. For example, were I defense counsel, I would probably counsel my client, okay, listen, if they come at you and say, did you intend to kill him? Don't say yes. Don't say yes. Say no, right? Because what it seems like the jury decided on, in my humble opinion, we don't know any of the jurors' opinions yet, which consisted, the 12-person jury, 6 African Americans, 2 white women, and 4 Hispanics. Right? That's the way the jury was loaded. Okay? Now, the jury did make some rational decisions in sentencing, and we're going to get to that here in just a little bit. Okay? They did, right? But they absolutely screwed the pooch that she was guilty of murder. But the thing is, dear listener, she was not guilty of manslaughter either, because that doesn't suit the definition of legal manslaughter. So we have in this case here a literal gray area where laws have not been created yet to define what that type of accidental killing is. Like a legal statute does not exist in the Texas Penal Code for that. I bet it doesn't in most states, right? I read the penal code just because of this case, right? It's not there, right? It's not murder. It's not manslaughter. But I mean, so what are you going to do? You're going to render a verdict of not guilty? Can't do that. The city's going to burn to the ground by all the race pimps coming into town. The city will burn to the ground if you render not guilty. It will. They had already threatened to do that. Actually, that's not really true. They're, what's her attorney's name? Lee something. Well, not the BLM attorney that came and represented the Jean family. What is this guy's name? We have a clip from him here in a minute. I'll remember what it is. Lee Merritt. Lee Merritt is his name. This is not about race. This is not about anything. This is not about the fact that she's white, and this is not about the fact that Jean is black. This is about the fact of justice. Equal justice before the law. We just want our justice, right? That's what the original promise of the prosecution's family, of Jean's family, was, that they just wanted justice. Okay. Well, I'm down for that. You know, I'm down for that, because I tell you what, Amber Guyger deserves some justice. I mean, listen, I'm not laughing about it. This is an absolutely horrible situation in which everybody loses, right? John's life is over, right? Guyger's life is over. She's never going to work again. She's never going to get another job ever again. Her life is absolutely destroyed. When you say something in a court of law, what do you wish would have happened? I wish he had had a gun and put me in the ground. Your life is over. Believe that. She is absolutely broken, right? And we're guilty for it. America is guilty for it. You heard it in the comments section right there. Nobody came outright and said it. No, they're trying to maintain this thin veneer of objectivity and civility, this thin veneer of justice, of equal justice. And it is very thin. You can hear the gnashing of teeth in all of these comments I just read to you. You can hear it. It's palpable. It's right there, right? Dear listener, we got a shit-ass situation here in Dallas, Texas. Listen, racial tension has always been here in Dallas, Texas. It's always been. But it is now unleashed in the form of D.A. Crusoe, who does not prosecute blacks, throws the book at whites, and really kind of excuses up to $999 worth of robbery. This is liberal politics infecting everything. Everything. Right? This is BLM politics. This is illegal alien politics. This is Antifa politics. This is not justice. This is politics. And it has now completely overtaken our justice system. Okay? Well, the trial went on to sentencing. She was convicted on Friday, right? And it went on to sentencing this week. They deliberated 5 hours before delivering a verdict of guilty of murder, right? And then they went to sentencing, okay? And well, let's not get there. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's not get there just yet, okay? I want you to listen to Lee Everett here, okay? I want you to listen to his comments. Remember, this is not about race. This is not about the fact she black and she white and he black. This is just about we wants our justice. We just wants our justice, okay? Now, Lee Everett is an absolute race pimp, just like he envies Sharpton. He envies Jesse Jackson, right? All right. So this is from his interview immediately after she was found guilty. Listen to what he says right here.
For taking their time, hearing the evidence, and getting it right. We still have the sentencing phase to go, but this is a huge victory, not only for the family of Botham Jean, but as his mother Allison told me a moment ago, this is a victory for black people in America. It's a signal that the tide is going to change here. Police officers are going to begin to be held accountable for their actions, and we believe that will begin to change policing culture all over the world.
Did you hear what it is right there? Right? This is a victory for black people. Just like when OJ got off. That was a victory for black people. This trial was a victory for black people. Are you kidding me, bro? Everybody loses here. Botham Jean's mother lost her son. Amber Guyger lost her life. And this is a victory for black people? But you heard it right there, dear listener, what they're doing. They're not just coming after the court system. No. They're going after all of police culture. We are going to overthrow police culture here in the United States because they are so racist toward black people. And let's listen to some more of what this scumbag has to say.
It's a sad reality that this community waited on pins and needles to decide whether...
There it is right there, community.
Not someone could be held guilty for killing an unarmed black man in his home.
No, not guilty. Guilty of murder, you son of a bitch, when she was not guilty of murder. Yes, she's guilty. You're leaving out the convenient detail of guilty of murder.
While eating ice cream. This should have been automatic. This should have been anticipated and expected, but it is extremely rare. And from this day forward, we're leading the way, we are pushing so that it is not rare, but that this is common, that justice continues to roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Oh my God. Justice rolls down like water and like a mighty stream. Can I get an amen? Oh my God. Unbelievable. I'm going to skip forward in the interview a little bit. This is a Daryl Washington, yet another one of these race pimping attorneys.
Problem. When James Harper was killed, nobody thought it was a problem. Clinton Allen was killed. We still didn't believe when we said we had training issues within the Dallas Police Department. It took us losing someone like Botham for Dallas, this entire state, and the whole world to finally hear what we've been saying all along. There are serious issues within the Dallas Police Department and training issues.
You see, there it is. They're going after the whole Dallas Police Department. The Dallas Police Department, which is already short 1,000 officers. They have their 1,000 officers too few in the city of Dallas to police the city. And they're going after DPD. You just heard it straight from his mouth.
We were here just a few months ago when Roy Oliver was convicted for the murder of Jordan Edwards. And now we're here today because Amber Guyger has now been convicted of murder for the death of Botham. And we just hope that somehow, some way, we can get some healing in this community and we can get the proper training so no other family can have to deal with what Bertram and Miss Allison, Alicia, and Brant are now dealing with. Although we got a murder conviction, their lives will never be the same, ever again. But we just hope that now people who live in the South Side flats, people who live in houses that look identical, this ruling will now say that you are safe to be in your homes, and people can no longer just say, I made a mistake and took your life.
This is a good one right here.
I am Attorney Ben Crump.
All right, this is Benjamin Crump. All right, this is where it gets really good. Get ready for this.
With Attorney Darrell Washington and Attorney Lee Merritt. Brothers, I'm so very honored to be in the foxhole. We're fighting for justice for this great family of Botham Jones, and to make history today in America. To make history today in America.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, Botham Jones was a near perfect person of color.
That's right.
So this jury had to make history in America today because Botham was the best that we had to offer. A 26-year-old, college-educated black man, certified public accountant, working for one of the big 3 accounting firms in the world, PricewaterhouseCoopers. But it shouldn't take all of that for unarmed black and brown people in America to get justice. Like Attorney Merritt and Attorney Washington said, this is a precedence now that will go forth across America for equal justice under the law for everybody. Whether you black, white, red, brown, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
and
yeah, so sure it doesn't matter.
It's for Trayvon Martin. It's for Michael Brown. It's for Sandra Bland. It's for Tamir Rice. It's for Eric Gardner. It's for Antoine Rose. It's for Jamel Roberts. For E.J. Bradford. For Stephon Clark. For Jeffrey Dennis. Genevieve Dawes. For Pamela Turner.
All right, I don't know about you, dear listener, but so far I haven't heard one white person's name. I haven't heard one red person's name. I haven't heard one yellow person's name. Can I get an amen? This is a goddamn revival, is what this is. This is not a press conference. This is an absolute revival. And do you hear the pile of shit this disgusting human being stepped into? He just compared this to Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. Now listen, Botham Jean was a good man. He smoked weed. I don't really have a problem with that. He was an outstanding man. He was a Christian, went to church all the time, every single week, twice, worked a steady job. He's just like everybody, right? Did he deserve to lose his life? Absolutely not. Does Amber Guyger deserve to go downtown for it? Absolutely yes, right? But you're going to compare this choir boy to Trayvon Martin, the thug, to Michael Brown, who attacked a police officer and burned a city to the ground in his death? Really? This is victory. This is what you call victory. A situation like this where everything was destroyed. And this is a victory? I'm going to play that one more again, just so it sinks in for maximum retention, dear listener.
Brown people in America to get justice. Like Attorney Merritt and Attorney Washington said, this is a precedence now that will go forth across America for equal justice under the law for everybody. Whether you black, white, red, brown, it doesn't matter. And this verdict is for Trayvon Martin. It's for Michael Brown. It's for Sandra Bland. It's for Tamir Rice. It's for Eric Gardner. It's for Antoine Rose.
Yeah.
This for Jamel Roberts, for E.J. Bradford, for Stephon Clark, for Jeffrey Dennis, Genevieve Doss, for Pamela Turner, for so many unarmed black and brown human beings all across America. This verdict today is for them. Everybody can raise their hands. This verdict is for them. This verdict is for them.
How dare you raise their hands, and how dare you scumbags listening to this live cheer. They don't care about anything except black people. Amber Guyger is white, and therefore she is guilty. And this is for Trayvon Martin, and this is for Michael Brown. Can I get an amen? Absolutely disgusting. Let me tell you something, dear listener. It's not going to work. This is not going to work. If this is the way our country is going to go along these BLM race pimping politics, we're done. We're done. That's not justice. But meanwhile, there is something that is justice. And I'm going to leave you a little bit of a white pill right here before we get up out of this segment. This right here is Botham Jean's brother, and they got to testify in the sentencing hearing. And I want you to hear what he had to say, because this really, 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 I'll just shut up. Here it is.
Go to God with all the guilt, all the bad things you may have done in the past. Each and every one of us may have done something that we're not supposed to do. If you truly are sorry, I know I can speak for myself. I forgive you. And I know if you go to God and ask Him, He will forgive you. And I don't think anyone could say it. Again, I'm speaking for myself, not even behalf of my family. But I love you just like anyone else. And I'm not gonna say I hope you rot and die just like my brother did, but I personally want the best for you. And I wasn't gonna ever say this in front of my family or anyone, but I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you. Because I know that's exactly what Botham would want you to do.
Oh my God. And that right there, dear listener, is how it's done. That's how it's done. And do you know what happened after that, dear listener? Do you know what happened after that? The brother made his statement and went over to Amber Guyger, to whom he was addressing that statement, and hugged her. And they embraced for about 30 seconds. Do you understand that he was speaking to the woman who killed his brother? I forgive you. I wasn't going to say this in front of my family, but I don't even want you to go to jail. He recognizes what an absolute wash it is, what a tragedy it is, right? And he forgives her. That's his brother. That's Botham Jean's brother. And he forgives Amber Guyger. And that's the way it's done right there. And this is the lesson that BLM needs to learn. And all these race pimps and all these race hustlers, they need to learn a lesson from this man right here. And thank God he was one of the last people to speak anything out about this today. Because that's the way right there. That's it, dear listener. Meanwhile, there is a riot going on in Dallas right now. It's not huge, but there are a couple of hundred people there because they thought that the 10-year sentence that Amber Guyger got when she went through sentencing was too little. They wanted her below the jail. They wanted her dead. She was guilty, just like America, just like President Trump, just like everybody. Botham Jean's brother here sees the way forward. We all need to learn a lesson from that. And that's about all I got for Bots, Thoughts, and Drops this week, dear listener. Thank you so much for riding along with me. Issue number 20 is in the books. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did putting it down. We're going to hopefully be a little bit more regular with our schedule now. Sorry that this was such a black-pilling topic about Dallas. I'm glad that it ended on a white pill. And I just want you to know, since I've got the boots here on the ground and the true intel, don't believe this horseshit that you see in the New York Times and the Washington Post and all that kind of stuff about how this is going to be reported. I know the truth, and I hope that I gave you enough facts for yourself that you can decipher the truth for yourself. All right, dear listener, you have a great week. Give yourself a foot rub, buy yourself a pizza, go out and buy one thing you like this week and take care of yourself, and I will be back at you before you know it.